I wanted to discuss KAVANOS achila according to the Arizal. Since we all love food and we could do big things with eating food, I don't mean just by gaining weight, obviously, I mean more so in regard to how many tikkunim can we make in Shamayim through the power of kavana with eating. So the reason I'm mentioning it, because in this week's parsha it's mentioned, that Arizal brings it down in this week's parsha, but it's really, I'm not sure of his kavana why he did it in this week's parsha, but typically the point is that it's negeya all year round. And specifically on Shabbos, where we have extra abilities to bring everything to a higher madrega, and achila is a big Indian on Shabbos, so therefore Shabbos it's so much more negeya, the same thing. So in order to explain it a little bit, when Hashem created the world, He created in the world that we know of, there are 4 parts, which broken down is Daimim, Tzemeach, Chai, Medaber, and then there's a 5th part which is called Yisrael, which translates into Daimim being earth, rocks. Second one is Tzemeach, things that grow from the ground. Next one is Chai, which is animals. And the last one is the Medaber, which is humans. And Madrega, Al Madrega is Klal Yisrael, who's on a higher Madrega than everything else in the Bria. So there's 2 ways to be misakin food, to bring it to a higher Madrega. Since us, Klal Yisrael, is on the highest Madrega, and we're the only ones who have the Kedusha of Shabbos, so to take a food from the food chain, which is on the lowest Madrega, which would be called daimim, which would be dirt, eating dirt. Now, as you know, everyone's going to say, who eats dirt? But the reality is, when you eat certain vegetables that grow in the ground, a lot of times dirt is included in it. Mostly carrots or potatoes that they grow in the ground. So a lot of times when you eat it, there may be some dirt included in it. So that's when we are eating what's called a daimim. Now the daimim, since it's the lowest madrega in the entire bria, so in order for us to bring it up to the madrega of equivalent to us, which would be a medaber and Yisrael, so we'd have to go up many madregas in one shot. And that is something that only tzaddikim gemurim would have the ability to do, which to be to bring things up from the lowest madrega to the highest madrega. Since us average people don't have the ability to do that, so therefore, typically, we can't have kavana when we eat dirt to bring it up to the madrega of us. However, when it comes to tzemeach meaning things that grow from the ground, which would include all fruits and vegetables, so that we have to bring up also a madrega, but we don't have to bring it up from the lowest point, we're bringing up from a point that is a level higher. So, eating fruits and vegetables is the second to lowest madrega in ha'oichel. It also has to do with how much preparation is required. Fruits are on a high madrega, let's say, than flour or wheat, because wheat involves many steps of preparation, and all those steps of preparation as what is included in halachas of Shabbos, that everything that you are not allowed to do before Adam Harishon did an Aveira, there would be trees that grew bread. It sounds like a crazy thing, but if you think about it, you grow an apple tree, you can eat the apple right off the tree, nothing needs to be done. So it's not that far-fetched to realize that even so, bread could be growing on a tree just like the apples. The madrega, next madrega is a chai, is we eat meat. So in meat is the highest madrega of the food chain that we eat. So it's the easiest to bring meat to the madrega of medaber, because it only has to go up one madrega. All these things, why do we have to bring them up madregas? Because Adam Harishon, who did an Aveira, and his Aveira was through eating, So, big part of our Tachlis HaChaim is to be misaking the chet of Adam Harishon, to bring it up in Madrega. And we have the ability to do that. There are obviously other Madregas. There are Madregas that are in between. L'mashal, in between a Tzemeach and a Chai, is, the Gemara brings it, Zayar also brings it, that is, I forgot what it's called. It's called, I think, Eitz HaSadeh or Eitz HaAdam. I forgot exactly the name of it. There's a certain Bria that's mentioned in the Gemara that it's attached to the ground like by its tail, and it looks like a person. Whoever comes near it, it kills and eats them. And that's like some sort of Bria that's in between something that grows and something that lives. And then we also have this, the Gemara says also, that the thing that's in between a behema and a medaber, a person, that he says is a kaif, a monkey. A monkey is like some sort of cross between an animal and a medaber, even though it obviously has the brains of an animal, but since it has certain look, certain surah is that of a person, so that's considered in between. So basically, the way we can be misakein the food is when we eat it l'shem shamayim with KAVANOS, to go exactly into the kavanah. So they're not going to make so much sense. I'm not going to go into them completely. But just to understand that when you eat, you have to eat l'shem shamayim, not l'shem taiva. You have to be separating the bad from the good. Typically, when you eat anything, so your body naturally separates the good from the bad. The bad goes out, and the good stays in you. That is called chiyus. The food is giving you energy. It's giving you life. That chiyus keeps you going, and that's where your body is automatically separating it. And there's the first step of digestive system goes through your mouth, through your teeth, and you have 16 teeth on top and 16 teeth on bottom, which we call Lamed Beis Shinayim. And the Lamed Beis Shinayim is representing the Lamed Beis Nesivus HaChachma, which is the beginning of the Bria, and it's also representing the Eis Aleph. How do you see that? If you take the Eis Aleph, and it's just made up of a Yud, Vav, Yud, so typically Eis Aleph is Chav, Vav, which is Shem Havaya. Because you have a Yud, a Vav, and a Yud, that's Shem Havaya. There's another way to do it that the Arizal brings, which is one of the KAVANOS, is that if you take the Yud, and then the Vav, which is in the middle, you cut it in half. And then that Vav becomes not one Vav, but it becomes two Vavs. So that means that the top half of the Aleph, because this goes on an angle, so the upper Yud would be together with the half of the two, one of the two Vavs would be Yud Vav. That's connected, let's say, the Shinayim, which are on your upper mouth, and the bottom Yud Vav would be connected the Shinayim on your bottom of your mouth, and together they take that food and you chew it. Mashal would be, let's say you sit down by a fancy dinner and they give you the most beautiful plate of food, that there's a piece of steak on there and they put a smear of some gravy on the side and makes it pretty with flowers and pine cones and all kinds of things to make the food look beautiful. But it does nothing for you. It's sitting on the plate pretty, but you get nothing from it. And the second you stick it in your mouth, it looks disgusting, right? Because who wants to see people chew with their mouth open? So the Lamed Beis Shinayim, what they're doing is by chewing that food that was beautiful, pretty on the plate, now it goes into your body and is chiyus. And that's when you have something from it. So the first act of eating starts with chewing, and then it goes through your body, and the body automatically separates it. And by separating the psilas and sending it out of the guf and keeping only the chiyus, and by having your kavanah when you eat, that you're eating only Shem Shemayim, that should give you energy to do Avodas Hashem, that is the ultimate kavanah in eating itself. There's another kavanah, there's another way that every piece of food that a person eats, inside it is a Gilgal Neshama. Most people who live through this world, they come out lacking certain mitzvahs, or they did certain averos that they need a tikkun for, so the food can act as a tikkun for it. So they come down into this world, and the highest madrega that they could reach, let's say they come back in the Gilgul as a head of lettuce, and that lettuce goes on your plate and you eat it Shabbos, and Shabbos is Me'ein Olam Haba, and now you have kavanah that you're eating l'shem kedushas Shabbos. So you're taking that Gilgul neshama and you're bringing it up, and now it accomplished its tikkun. But since we have no idea really what goes on with Gilgul neshamas, we don't understand anything. We don't know who's neshama. We don't know what the tikkun is for. We only know, generally speaking, all these things is part of Shamayim Lashem. These are all Himmel Cheshbainis. We don't know anything about it. Therefore, we cannot, although we know that it's a Gilgul neshama, because come out everything we eat is coming from some sort of Gilgul, but we can't be mechaven exactly to it. We just should have in mind in general that we're going to be mesaken the neshama of some person who needs a tikkun. Now, drinking is a little bit different, because drinking you could be mechaven to an actual kavanah, and the kavanah is like this. If you take those who know Av, Sag, Ma, Ben, there are 4 types of shemas of all in the name of Havaya, and there are different ways of spelling it, that a hey could be spelled with a hey yud, a hey aleph, or a hey hey. And there are 4 different levels, even though I only told you 3, but one of them in the Vav is above Yud Vav, and the other one is above Aleph Vav. I'm not going into the detail. Psimi noida she'ela shalamdu b'fnim. But those who didn't learn it, I just gave you a brief overview. And if you spell out all those 4 shemas Havaya of the Ab, Sag, Ma, Ben, it comes out that there are 9 yuds. These 9 yuds, these shemas of Shem Havaya is the shem that holds up the entire world. That's the shem that Hashem used for the creation of the Bria. The first 2, the Ab and the Sag, is for the Shamayim, is for Meichin, and the bottom 2, which is the Ma and the Ben, is for this world, which is the Sheva Tachtainim. Now, if you take all 9 yuds, now each yud is 10, so 9 times 10 is 90. What's the main chiyus of the entire world that everything is totally in? That is water. And the gematria of the word water, which is mayim, is also 90. So you see that Hashem created this world with rachamim gemurim, chesed elyon, and we know that mayim is called chesed. So this chesed elyon is represented in water, because mayim is meimei hachesed, and that is, there's nothing in the Bria that can survive without water, starting from the daimim, which all the plants grow from. The only way the plants can grow is with water. And then the plants act as feed for the animals, and then the animals act as feed for people, and every single one that has a chiyus has to have in it mayim. So therefore mayim is everything included. Again, there's a question if there is a Gilgul Neshama in Mayim or not, and the answer to that question is not resolved. That result does not say. Nothing, obviously, we could say on our own. And the other thing I wanted to mention earlier, I mentioned that people eat, that one of the things a person can eat is a daimim, is a question if salt is a daimim. So there's 2 types of salt. There's a salt that comes from a salt mine, but that would be considered a daimim, like you're eating dirt, and the salt that comes from the water would not be considered from a daimim, would be considered from the mayim. So it's two different levels in the mayim. Bottom line for everything, that we have the ability to take every piece of food that we eat and to bring it up to madregas elyonis. And every time that we eat, we should have in mind that we're not eating l'shem taiva, even though we usually forget it when we're hungry. But the ik is that you have kavanah in the achila in order that you should get a mitzvah on every bite. As we know that Shabbos is me'ein olam haba, and all the food that we eat on Shabbos is a chelik of the me'ein olam haba, and therefore anything that is me'ein olam haba, so on Shabbos, especially fish, because fish has the ability to be eaten min hamuchan, there is no eva min achai, there is no anything from a fish. If you're eating a piece of meat, so you have to shecht it and salt it and cook it. It can't be eaten raw. If people eat sushi, sushi has raw fish. Technically speaking, if you catch a fish, you can't catch a fish on Shabbos, but if you have a raw fish, you could, technically speaking, you could just bite straight into it. That's min hamuchan. Therefore, on Shabbos, all the foods that we eat, whether it be gefilte fish, because we want to avoid the avera of boirer, and we eat potato kugel in order because of this thing of being teich in the potatoes, all the things that we do is all done in a way that it should be min hamuchan. I wanted to add one last thing, that by Hasidim there's a big inyan of shirayim. What's the big inyan of shirayim? I think the time is that since when the Rebbe eats whatever the food is, so he's a Rebbe, and he knows how to be misakin the food through his KAVANOS, so by you eating a piece from his food, that already is mesukon. So he'll take, let's say, a big platter of fish, the Rebbe will eat one little piece of it, and then it'll go to the Chassidim and they'll all grab to have a piece of the shirayim, in order that they should be able to eat something that does not need a tikkun because it's already mesukin, because the Rebbe with his KAVANOS was already mesakin it. On that note, I'm going to be ending, and I'm going to say that we should all be zoiche to eat good food, and good food means food l'shem shemayim, and avada, the part of the Einik Shabbos is to have good food that tastes good. On that note, we shall be zeiche to Geula Shleima b'mheira v'yameinu.